Hi there, welcome to another edition of Yoga with Anne. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today the class we're going to work on is to prep your body to sit cross-legged. So just to let you know, it does not mean that you have to ever sit that way. It might not be possible for your body, it might not be comfortable, it might cause pain or whatnot. So don't ever think that what we're working toward you actually have to do. So there are going to be times through class that we're going to check in cross-legged position. You're welcome to skip that, do something different. You can always sit in a chair. All of those ideas, those thoughts, whatnot are welcome. So you just take care of you and do the best for you. But we're going to do poses today that are going to help to be able to sit a little easier, make it a little more accessible for our bodies. That being said, muscles, bones, whatnot sometimes prevent us from doing certain things. So it doesn't make you a bad person. Someone's not better because they can do it and you can't. So part of it is a flexibility thing. Part of it is how your bones are structured, how your femur bone fits into your hip socket. So keep those things in mind as we practice today. If something doesn't feel good, honor your body, don't do it. And especially if it causes pain, please stop doing it. You can give yourself an alternate. You can do something completely different, and you can also just be as you are. So please be mindful of that. So for props today, I know a lot of people don't have yoga props, totally fine. So number one thing, if you have some sort of blanket that folds and rolls easily. So I have yoga blankets, you might not. So a bath towel or a beach towel will work as your yoga blanket. If you don't have anything else, awesome, that'll work just fine. If you happen to have yoga blocks, yoga strap, have those available. But again, if you don't have them, no big deal. We can work around the blocks. Sometimes books work, they're a little bit clunky. Other things that you can use for a yoga strap, a necktie, a scarf, the belt from a bathrobe. You can also use your own hands and arms. You won't get the maximum benefit of the pose that we're going to use for this, or the poses that we're going to use, but it'll still work. So do what's best for you. If you don't have anything, then you just use something that can work as a bath towel or a beach towel. So all right, so number one rule, honor your body. And that doesn't mean necessarily just your physical body. It can mean your breath, it can mean your heart, it can mean how you're feeling about things, what's happening with your mind. So be thoughtful for yourself in all of those areas. I want you to feel good and I don't want you to hurt yourself in any way. So I'm gonna move my stuff aside. I'm actually sitting on a block and I'm gonna come off of that. And let's start sitting cross-legged. So again, you can skip this part, right? You can come to lie down. That's where we're gonna end up in a moment. So you could come to lie down. You could sit in a chair or sit another way. So I'm gonna sit sideways for a moment so you can see. So sitting is really hard, right? So I don't teach a lot of seated poses these days. We won't be doing many seated poses today. But most of us sit like this, right? I am totally, like, my body, this feels really comfortable. But it's not healthy, right? My bones aren't stacked. My pelvis is tucking under my body. So tight muscles can be the reason why we sit like this. Weak muscles, all things. I have some, back issues. So sitting on a blanket or a towel can be helpful. So if you have yoga blocks, you could also sit on yoga blocks. So already it's allowing my pelvis to tilt forward and me to sit a little taller, yeah? Just so you have an idea of why that can be useful and important. So, you could also sit here, you could sit here if there's somewhere that's more comfortable. So cross-legged is really shin to shin, which is not the most comfortable position for a lot of us. So basically my feet are under my knees supporting me. This might not be okay, right? So maybe you have blocks or pillows or something in your house that you can slide under your knees. If you're sitting like this is not comfortable, right? So sit another way or find a way to bring yourself up and support your knees. A lot of times I tend to sit this way when a teacher says sit cross-legged because it feels better for me. This might not work for you either, so you just do what's best for you. So check in and just notice how it feels. And then you probably went to your habitual side. This is not my habitual side, but lately it's the side that's felt better. Who knows? Injuries, surgeries, sometimes that's just how you are. Right-handed, left-handed, sometimes that has something to do with it. And then we'll switch the cross of the legs. And one side might feel way better, way more comfortable than the other. For whatever reason, my habitual side just does not feel that comfortable. Who knows? Things happen, right? I've had various things happen in my body, so sometimes one side will feel better than the other. All right, so let's come to lie down. So this is where it can be nice to have something under your head. I like to have something under your head. So I mentioned earlier, about this. So imagine if your body's like this and then you come to lie down, right? Then your chin's up and you're not comfortable. So you just want to make sure you don't have so much support under your head that is pushing you forward, and then your neck's doing something kind of weird like this and your chin's like this. So you just find what works for you. Oh, what I forgot to mention, actually I'm actually going to keep my blocks kind of nearby my mat, and I'm going to grab my yoga strap and put it by me so it's ready and available. And then I'm going to come to lie down. My knees are bent, my feet are on the mat, we're in constructive rest. If you'd like to start another way, please do. And we'll just close our eyes or soften your gaze and just notice your breath here. Your arms can be wherever's comfortable. Let's step our feet as wide as our mat. And we're going to move to our breath. So we're going to do some windshield wipering. So you're going to move our knees side to side. You decide how far your knees go. So the next time you exhale, move your knees to one side. Again, arms can be however is comfortable. When you inhale, your knees will come back up. And when you exhale, to the other side. And just go back and forth at your pace. Your breath is going to dictate how quickly you move. Couple more rounds. And then my final round. Don't feel hurried or rushed to catch up. Finish up at your own pace. And once you do, you'll bring your knees back upright, and then you'll step your feet back together a little closer, more like hip distance apart than mat distance apart. All right, let's pick up our right foot and hug our knee in. So you might be able to hold on to your shin, maybe the back of your thigh. You do also have the option to be hands-free. I'm going to flex my right foot, and then I'm going to allow my left hand to release, and my right hand's going to guide my knee open out to the side. And then I'm going to come back to where I started. And then I'll open again and come back. 3 more times. So it's a little bit this motion, right, of opening as you sit cross-legged. Last one. Come back to center. Set your right foot down. Take a moment in constructive rest. So, depending on how your femur bone fits in your hip socket, it may not be a comfortable position. So that's also why you have to decide how you sit, what kind of support, and the poses that we do to prep our body, right? So hug the left knee in, holding on the best way for you, maybe hands free, flexing your foot. And then I'm going to release the right hand, and the left arm will guide the left knee open and closed 5 times. So you decide how far you go. You don't need to overdo it. You don't need to yank. Just go with what feels natural, feels fairly comfortable. Intense sensation is okay. You just don't want to cause any sort of pain. I think we have one more. I kind of lost count. Coming back to center, setting your foot down, back to constructive rest. Let's hug both knees in this time. So you can pick one foot up at a time. And again, same thing on shins, at the back of the thighs, hands free. Let's flex our feet. Let's open and close the knees a couple of times together. So open away and come back. Let's do that one more time. Open away and come back. And then if your hands are on your shins, you can put your hands on top of your knees or even on your thighs. And then we're gonna move our knees away and come back. So your arm's gonna go towards straight. Again, you can do this hands-free. It's a little more core work that way. Let's do 2 more. And you'll come back to center. And then let's bring the knees together. And we're gonna circle in one direction. So you're kind of like circling on your sacrum, which is the back of your pelvis where your tailbone is. One more in that direction, and then let's circle the other way. And check in with your breath. That's a good indicator if you're overdoing it. If it's too much, you can always stop. One more. Back to center. Let's set the left foot down. Let's set the right foot down. We're going to get our strap. I'm going to unravel. Pick your right foot up, hug your knee in toward your chest. I'm going to flex my foot. I'm going to take my strap and I'm going to put it over my foot. It might be difficult to do. Oh, that actually, that never happens, right? So maybe you have to kind of cross over to get your strap on your foot. Maybe this is where you're going to have your, so if you don't have a strap or something that's going to work like a strap, you can have your hand behind your thigh. Again, you can do hands free. The benefit with the strap, once I have it there, I can start to work to straighten my leg. So I can't touch my foot, right? I mean, I could, but I'm gonna do weird things to my body. So I want you to keep the upper part of your body on the mat, comfortable. So this is making my arms longer. So if you don't have a strap, it's a little bit harder to make your legs straight, which is fine. It doesn't have to be straight. We're working towards straight. So that's the benefit of having a strap. If I wanted, I could bring my leg a little closer. That's a little too intense for me. We're going to keep our left knee bent. So this is Supta Padangusthasana 1, one of my favorite poses. So if you don't have something that's going to work like a strap, these next couple of poses are going to be a little more intense, so keep that in mind. You can always stay here at 1. Let's take the strap into our right hand, left hand releases, and let's start to open our left foot and leg out to the side. So when I start to open my right leg, my left knee automatically starts to open out to the side. It's just something that my body does. It helps to even out in your pelvis and sacrum. I think it's a good idea that you decide if that happens or not. And you decide how far this leg goes. It could go pretty far. We want to keep it active. Likely don't want to bring it down to the floor. Not important where it goes. Thinking about out to the side, but then also imagine that your toes could touch the top of your head. All right, let's come back up. We're going to take the strap into the left hand, right hand releases. Really extending here, spreading your toes, and then we're going to cross the right leg to the left and our left knee to the right. So like a crisscross. So we won't go very far, but you'll probably feel some intense sensation. So the muscles are on the IT band. Whew, is likely what you're feeling. It just varies. All of us, it's different. And then we'll come back up. We're going to release our strap. We're going to bend our knee and bring your foot back to your mat. And take a moment, constructive rest. Check in with your right side, check in with your left side. And then let's bring the left knee toward our chest. Get that strap lassoed on your foot the best way for you. And then once you've got the strap in place, you can reach and extend. Spreading your toes. Imagine that all 4 corners of your foot would touch the ceiling or the wall in front of you. So maybe this is where you are to have your leg fairly straight. Totally fine and appropriate. This side is much tighter for me. The majority of us, this is going to be the tighter side, right? Because the majority of us are right-handed. If you've had an injury or a surgery or something, that could change. And if you're a lefty, it's all over the place, right? Because you live in a righty's world. So that's just how it is, right? Check in with your breath. So we can be in an intense situation, right? And we can breathe through it. So this can help us in all parts of our life. All right, let's take the strap into the left hand. Right hand releases. Left leg starts to open out to the side, but then also imagining that your toes could touch the top of your head. And then my right leg knee is going to start to open to the side a little bit to keep me even. So if you feel like you're toppling over, this is a great way to help even things out. And I happen to have a wall that I can set my foot on, which that's totally fine. You can have something to set on. I can still reach and extend and lengthen, and then also still imagine those toes are going to reach the top of my head, even though my foot is touching something. It's basically being supported, right? All right, let's come back upright. Switch the strap into your left hand. So I guess I didn't mention without the strap, you could hold on with both arms. It's a little more work. You could just let hands free. Whew, it's a lot of work. You also have the option when we do the crisscross to be hands free, right? That's a little less intense than the other way. It's still a lot. So I've crossed my left leg over to the right and my right knee over to the left. And I'm still reaching through this left leg, nice and long. Even if the knee is bent, imagine that the reach is happening. The toes are spread. Even if your toes don't move, right? Our toes are supposed to move like our fingers, but we shove them in shoes, we stand weird, all kinds of stuff. So let's come back upright. We'll release our strap, bend your knee, foot back to your mat. Back to constructive rest. So just taking that pause. And then let's roll over to our side. So just allow your knees to go to one side. Once you're over to your side, see if you can use your arms and hands to press up, to come up to seated. So if it's okay for your body, we're going to come into cross-legged position. I'm just going to get a sip of water. If it's not okay, then you sit a different way. So I'm sitting at the edge of my blanket. Oh, I went to my habitual, which is not my habitual side right now. Just noticing if there's any shifts or changes. You might notice maybe your knees are high up and they're just starting to lower. And if there's no change, it's okay. That's all right. Don't worry about it. All right. We're going to come onto all fours in tabletop. So I'm going to get my blocks. So if you don't have blocks, it's okay. We can work around them. You could be near a wall. You could have a piece of furniture, a coffee table or something like that, a stool. That can be helpful as well. And you can also do it without that kind of support. I'm going to take my blanket and I'm going to put it down for padding for my knees. Again, totally optional, but it can be nice to have that. And then coming into all fours, tabletop, wrists below shoulders, knees below hips. So we start that way and then you check in because this angle can be really intense for wrists. I'm going to move my blocks a little bit. So maybe your hands need to go a little more forward. Maybe they go more out to the side. Maybe the fingers likely don't turn in, but who knows? I don't know your body. Maybe you turn your fingers a little bit out. So you find the best spot for you. And then you want to spread your fingers. And you don't want to sink, right? You want to be wide in your chest and shoulders. And then let's move to our breath. So the next time you exhale, you're going to tuck your tail, round your back. Your head and neck will slightly lower. And then when you inhale, you're going to lift your tail up first. Your back's going to arch. You're going to open your heart and a slight lift with your head and neck. So it's really easy to lift up here. My voice is changing. So make it that it's following your spine. And then when you exhale, you're going to come into that cat, that flexion, rounding forward. And then when you inhale, you're going to lift your tail up, welcoming that breath, opening your heart, and a slight lift with the head and neck. Let's do that 2 more times. Once you're complete, you come back to a neutral spine. So again, you go at your own pace, right? If you need to keep moving like you're still going, still keep going. So from here, we're going to come into Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. So if you know you don't want to do that pose, you could stay here, do some more cat-cow. You could come into a child's pose if you know child's pose. You could come into puppy pose if you know puppy pose, that's moving your hands forward. So puppy pose is like in between down dog and child's pose, or I guess more between child's pose and like a tabletop. It's a little bit of both, right? So you find what works best for you. If downward facing dog works, step your hands one handprint forward, curl your toes under, lift your knees up, and shift your butt, hip, and thighs away from your hands. Let's start with our knees bent. So we're bringing our body into a nice long inverted V. Maybe you pedal your feet, move your hips. Check in with your breath. And then let's set our knees down. And we're going to step our right foot forward. We're going to come into a lunge. So this, if you don't have blocks, you can use your own body, right? On your thigh, a wall. If I were going to use the wall, I want to be a little closer. You could use a table or whatnot. I'm going to use my blocks. So you can see my knee is right over my ankle. So make sure this isn't happening because that's not healthy for your knee. You want to have that nice alignment to keep you safe. So, if you don't have blocks or they're too far away, bring yourself up higher. It's a little more wobbly, and you can always curl your back toes under to help a little bit. That tends to help with my wobbliness. Awesome. All right. We're going to come into a pose called Hanumanasana. It's a half split. So the front leg is going to start to go towards straight and the hips are going to move back. Again, it can be done here. So I would shift my hips back, lift my toes up. I actually need to extend my leg a little bit in front of me to come here. So if you're on blocks, here's a good spot. If you are definitely got to curl those back toes under. If you're higher up, just be mindful. Maybe you have something nearby that you can hold on to. It's a little more balancy. So, lengthening those hamstrings. So like your foot is on the floor, right? It's nice and active. All right, we're going to come back into our lunge just for a moment. And then from here, we'll step the foot and knee back, and you'll do something in between the two sides. It could be downward dog, it could be cat-cow, it could be child's pose, puppy pose. Something where you're evening things out, right? So a one-sided pose to a two-sided pose. All right, let's bring our knees down. Step your left foot forward. Get yourself into your lunge, checking in that your knee and ankle are in alignment to keep you safe. Back toes can be curled under or not. So if, your hands are on the mat, make sure you're not all hunched, right? So sometimes that's why it can be nice to have the support. You might not have it, so you find it in your own body. And yeah, the lunge is a little different depending on where your torso is in space. All right, from here, we're going to come into that half split. So we're going to start to back our hips up, pick the toes up, coming onto the heel. You could just be here, or I usually scoot my foot forward. It just works better for me. You might not have to do that, right? And see, if I stay much more upright, my spine is pretty long. If I start to come lower, even lower on my blocks, my back starts to round. That's just my body. So some people can come really low and keep pretty long. Our spines are rounded, that's how they're designed. So our spines can't ever be flat or straight, right? There are curves. So I like to say long, find length, be tall. And we'll come back to the lunge. We'll come back to the tabletop, and one more time, you decide what you do to finish up. Down dog, cat cow, tabletop, child's, puppy. Bring your knees back down. And then we're going to come to lie on one side. So I'm going to get my blanket. And you might prop yourself up. When you come to lie down, you might have your head on your support. So you'll find kind of what works best for you. And we're going to basically come into the fetal position. If it's more comfortable to have your legs straight, then have your legs straight. But I find that this gives a little more support. So I am actually going to kind of be in what I call slumber party pose. So you might want to use your strap for this. And actually, I'm going to turn around so you can see me from behind for a moment so you can kind of see what's happening. So we're going to do what I call a quad stretch. So I can easily hold onto my foot. You might not be able to. That's why the strap would work. And I will show from the back in a moment. I'm reaching like I'm standing on my leg, right? From my hip out to my knee. So this top knee is not above the bottom knee. It's like I'm standing on that leg. So if I straightened it and someone turned me upright, I would be standing, right? So think about it that way, that's coming out of the hip. And then I'm pressing my hips slightly forward, but keeping that knee back so that I get a stretch in my quad. Everyone's different. You might barely touch your foot and you're like, oh yes, I am getting a stretch in that quad. So let me show from the back. And I'll do it with the strap as well. So I'm just going to strap my foot now because it's a little easier. So I'm in my fetal position. I'm going to start to move my leg back. So you want to keep yourself as long as you can. You just do your best, right? Like I can't see, so I'm assuming that it's okay. If it's bothering your low back, then don't do it. Just lie on your side. Or you can just lie on your back as well. So I'll come back to face the camera. I'm not going to use my strap, but you are welcome to use your strap. You also have the option hands-free. It won't be as big of a stretch. All right. Let's pick the top foot up, whichever one it is. I'm just going to use top and bottom because I didn't tell you what side to go to. And I'm going to hold on to my foot. You could do the top of your foot, your ankle, maybe even higher. Frankly, you could be here. It's a little more work and it's not as big of a stretch, but it is possible. And if you just want to be here, this might be enough of a stretch for you, yeah? So my knee is like coming out from my hip in alignment with my hip. I'm pressing my hip forward to give me a little extra stretch. You may or may not need that. And I'm breathing. Couple more breaths here. All right, I'm going to release. You are welcome to flip over to your other side. You could just roll over to your other side. I'm actually going to flip so I'm still facing the camera. Slumber party pose. You're also welcome to have your head all the way down. Fetal position, so my legs are at a 90-degree angle. That's just comfortable, right? And then I'm going to pick this top foot up. I'm going to hold on to my ankle. I'm going to start to aim my knee in alignment with my hip. Press my hip forward, but it's not going to move forward, right? It's just that motion, that idea of movement without actually happening. So it's not motion. I'm breathing. Strap can be on your foot. You can hold on. You can be hands-free. Let's release. And then we're going to come into constructive rest. So I'm going to flip back just because this is like my regular side that I normally teach yoga and take yoga. Like it feels weird for me to be on that other side. So, I just sat up upright and I reminded myself to sit tall, but it's really easy to sit like this. Yeah, I'm in this kind of weird, not really cross-legged position. So, before we come to lie down, we're going to check in with cross-legged. Sitting on the edge of my blanket, crossing my shins, supporting my feet, or supporting my knees with my feet. Perhaps something is under your knees. Noticing if anything is shifted or changed. Switching the cross. I like this side like so much more than the first side. All right. Let's come into one more seated pose and then we'll come to lie down. So we're going to bring our feet together. They don't have to touch. They can be much farther away from you. You might need support for your knees, but we want to sit tall. So, if you're like this, it's not working, right? So move your feet away. They don't have to touch each other. This is Baddha Konasana, cobbler's pose. My feet are pressed together. My knees are imagining that they're reaching out to the side. And I'm definitely feeling a stretch in my inner hips here. All right, let's come to lie down on our mat, back to constructive rest. So we've got one more pose to do before Shavasana, our final pose of quiet and relaxation. So have support under your head if you like that. Take a moment to check in. And then let's pick our right foot up and you're going to cross your right ankle over your left knee. This is called figure four. We're going to keep our left foot down on the mat. Our right foot is active and we're imagining that we're moving our right knee away from our right shoulder. This might be plenty for you and you stay right here. If it feels accessible, we're going to do a little bit of twisting, nothing major. So you'll start to move your right foot and your left knee toward the left. So maybe your foot, I have a wall near me, so maybe your foot touches the wall. Maybe it touches a prop. Maybe it comes all the way down to the floor. Mine is going to end up touching the wall, which that's a little much for me today. So I'm just going to go a little bit over. My left foot is still pretty much on the mat. The inner part of the foot is a little bit off the mat, but this is a good spot for me today. And then we'll come back upright. And then keep your cross and then right knee toward the right. And again, you can come all the way down. And when we come down, it's kind of like the windshield wipering that we did at the beginning of class. So this may not, you may need to come all the way down or come back upright, especially depending on how it feels in your low back and your sacrum and pelvic area. Let's come back upright. Release. Constructive rest. Pick your left foot up, cross your left ankle over your right knee or thigh. This side, so different. My left foot is flexed. I'm moving my left knee away from my left shoulder. It doesn't move anywhere as far as the first side. So we just work toward things, right? You're totally welcome to stay right here. Otherwise, we're going to twist a little bit. So we'll start to bring our left knee, our right knee and our left foot toward the right. And I think today I'm going to stay more upright. You're welcome to bring your foot all the way down, if that works for you, onto something, a pillow, maybe there's a piece of furniture nearby, a wall. Let's come back upright. And then we're going to twist the opposite way, bringing the left knee toward the left. And again, you decide how far you go. We'll come back upright. Release. Constructive rest. So we're going to come into our final pose, Shavasana, corpse pose. When I teach my YouTube yoga classes, we don't do it for very long. So if you'd like a longer Shavasana, you're welcome to pause, set a timer, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. Maybe you have that much time. That's awesome if you do. That's important to rest, right? To relax. We're going to probably do like 2 minutes. So if you want to do longer, if you have the time, if you have props and you want to set up a particular way, you're welcome to do that. I'm going to keep my knees bent. You could extend your legs. That's a little much for my low back. If you're chilly, you can put on socks, cover up, put a fleece, another blanket to cover up. You could also be seated if you prefer to come sit upright and be quiet and calm in more of a meditative state. You're totally welcome to do that. You can close your eyes or soften your gaze and notice your breath just for the next few moments. And then you're going to let go of that. The Shavasana is about being and not doing. So just allow your body to be as it is. When you notice your mind wandering away, you come back to your breath. Bring your attention back to your breath. Maybe you deepen it. Let's bring a little movement to our body, fingers and toes. Excuse me. Maybe you stretch or hug your knees in. Yawn. And make your way over to one side. Try to lift your head up last, pressing your hands and arms into the floor or mat. And coming back upright. We'll come back and have a seat. If it's okay, one more time, we're going to check in with cross-legged. If that's not okay, then sit another way. And I have to say my habitual, but not so much these days, side feels a lot better. Like I have some hip sacrum issues on this side, so it feels less intense, like there's always some sensation there, so it feels better after doing that practice. I'm gonna do my non-habitual side, but the easier side these days, and it's been pretty easy the whole time, but I definitely feel a little more relaxed, a little more comfortable. If you're comfortable staying here, we'll close our class this way. If you need to come into another way, please do that. So we'll bring our hands together at heart center. You're welcome to close your eyes or soften your gaze. Keep peace in your mind, keep strength in your body, and keep love in your heart. From my heart to yours, I bow to you. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. I appreciate that you took time to take care of yourself, to try something a little different. This class is a little different. One of my public yoga students, so I do teach public yoga classes via Zoom that anybody can join. I record them, so if you can't come to the live class, you're welcome to come to the recording. You utilize the recording whenever you want. So one of my regular Zoom yoga students was like, can we do a practice helping with cross-legged? I was like, that's fascinating. I've never done that before. So kind of looking at ways to make it more accessible. And even if you can't do it, it doesn't matter, right? You can do the practice. So if you have questions or comments, go below and add that information. In the description below, I'll have information how you can contact me, how you can find me on social media. If you have any requests or whatnot, let me know. And if you want to get a hold of me about Zoom classes, let me know. I'll be starting a new series in the new year. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you, and I hope to practice with you again soon.